Hello, America. I'm Erick Erickson. Yep, today's my birthday, and still I've got an afternoon briefing for you. Here are the 4 stories that matter most this afternoon. Remember, you can get the full podcast of the Erick Erickson Show on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcasting app. But these 4 stories percolated as the show was ending, and you're going to want to know about them before you get home this evening. Up first, national security threats that are being ignored. We begin with 2 alarming stories. They're national security breaches. They've received scant attention from the mainstream media. Now, this one just happened this afternoon. A Chinese scholar at the University of Michigan, Yongqin Jian, and her boyfriend, Zhenyong Liu, were arrested for attempting to smuggle a dangerous biological pathogen into the United States. The pathogen, Fusarium graminearum, is not a Harry Potter spell. It's a fungus. It causes head blight, a disease devastating to crops like wheat, barley, corn, and rice. It's led to billions in economic losses globally just last year. Prosecutors allege the couple aimed to conduct research on the pathogen at the university, raises lots of alarms about potential agroterrorism. U.S. Attorney Jerome F. Gordon Jr. described the scheme as one of the gravest national security concerns he has seen, and yes, the lady who is a postgraduate, postdoctorate researcher at the University of Michigan is a member of the Chinese Communist Party. Second, Nathan Lash. I mentioned the story last week. 28-year-old civilian employee in the Defense Intelligence Agency's Insider Threat Division. He was arrested for attempting to share classified information with foreign governments. He was caught in an FBI sting operation after leaving a thumb drive containing classified documents in a public park. Now, I covered that story last Friday, but notice how little media attention it's gotten. These underscore a troubling trend. Individuals within our institutions acting on personal ideologies, compromising national security, and the media's lack of complete curiosity about them. It's serious that the media would choose to ignore these stories. We've got to be vigilant. We've got to hold the media to account when they just don't cover stories that matter. They're so focused on other things. Importantly, again, I covered the second story last week. The American media hasn't provided much attention to that story. The American media hasn't covered attention to the story of a Muslim man in Michigan plotting an attack on the military on behalf of ISIS, or of the other Michigan Muslim man who plotted an attack on a Jewish preschool. And the New York Times put the coverage of the Egyptian terrorist in Boulder, Colorado on page A15 of Monday's paper. Only today did it make the front page. Up next, Elon Musk, after recently stepping down from his role in the Trump administration, has decided to criticize President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. Musk on Twitter has actually referred to it as a disgusting abomination, citing the projected $2.5 trillion increase in the national deficit over the next decade. He expressed frustration that the bill undermines the cost-cutting efforts he championed during his tenure. The bill, which includes extensions of the 2017 tax cuts and significant spending measures, has faced criticism from fiscal conservatives. Lawmakers such as Rand Paul and Ron Johnson have voiced concerns about the bill's impact on the nation's debt. Musk's departure from DOGE and subsequent critique highlight internal tensions within the Republican Party regarding fiscal responsibility. As debate continues, it's crucial to assess the long-term implications of the legislation and note that it will give a big tax cut to blue states and will perpetuate much of the pork spending from Joe Biden's Green New Deal. In a significant development, the United States has agreed to produce a nuclear deal with Iran that would permit limited low-level nuclear enrichment on Iranian soil for a to-be-determined period. The proposal contradicts earlier public statements from top U.S. officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who had insisted on zero enrichment. Now, Iran had consistently maintained it wouldn't sign any deal if the deal prohibited uranium enrichment for civilian purposes. The U.S.'s apparent concession aims to break the deadlock in negotiations, but risks backlash from allies like Israel and Republican members of Congress who have pushed for stricter terms. The shift in the United States stance raises questions about the administration's commitment to preventing Iran from developing nuclear capabilities. It's essential to scrutinize the details of any agreement to ensure it effectively curtails Iran's potential for nuclear weapons development. As Russia's war on Ukraine continues without a peace deal in sight, the U.S. Senate is considering new sanctions legislation against Moscow, with over 80 senators supporting the initiative. Proposed measures aim to increase stricter penalties on Russian officials, financial institutions, and Russian allies. Senators Richard Blumenthal and Lindsey Graham are leading efforts to brief their colleagues on the situation in Ukraine and the necessity of additional sanctions. The bipartisan support for the legislation underscores the U.S. Congress's commitment to holding Russia accountable for its actions. Now, as discussions progress, it's vital to ensure that any sanctions imposed are effective in deterring future aggression and supporting Ukraine's sovereignty. As it currently stands, there's a veto-proof majority in both the House and the Senate to pursue these sanctions, not just on Russia, but its allies. And now it looks like President Trump seems increasingly amenable to such sanctions. So here are the takeaways this afternoon. A Chinese scholar's attempt to smuggle dangerous pathogens into the United States, and a DIA employee's effort to share classified information with a foreign government highlights serious national security threats that are being underreported by the media as they obsess over Donald Trump and all things MAGA. Elon Musk's public denouncement of President Trump's spending bill reveals internal Republican conflicts over fiscal responsibility and the direction of economic policy. The U.S.'s proposal to allow Iran limited uranium enrichment marks a significant shift in nuclear negotiations, raising concerns about the effectiveness of such an agreement in preventing nuclear proliferation. And bipartisan momentum is building in the Senate and the House for new sanctions against Russia, reflecting a unified stance against Moscow's ongoing aggression in Ukraine. That's what matters. The 4 things you need to know before you get home. This is your afternoon briefing. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like and share the episode. Text Erick, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777 to get the show notes, the live stream, the podcast, and more. I'm Erick Erickson. Stay grounded, stay informed, and keep the faith.